Welcome to the London Free Press Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Gilbert. The Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police is asking for an urgent meeting with Canada's premiers to address police officer safety in the wake of 9 Canadian officers being killed in the line of duty in the last 6 months. So today I'm talking with London Free Press crime reporter Dale Carruthers about the letter and what they're asking for and how incidents here in London are highlighting the need for some reforms. Hi, Dale. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today, Rachel.
Of course. Yeah. Well, you're the expert on this for sure. So let's just go over just in general what did the letter say and what are they asking for?
Yeah, so the letter from this police association, they represent over 60,000 police leaders in Canada from all the provinces and territories. They're asking for an urgent meeting with the premiers to address several issues. One of them is the risk facing officers, and the other has to do with bail reform, an issue we're hearing a lot about lately. And then the third issue is gun and drug related crimes. So they're all kind of linked, these three issues. And they say that essentially policing in the country's at a crossroads and these issues need to be addressed.
So the statistics in your story say that 9 police officers have died in the line of duty in Canada across the country in the last 6 months, which seems astounding to me. How does that kind of compare to other years?
Yeah, it's a significant increase from past years, and of course, one of those deaths happened here in southwestern Ontario. That was an OPP officer who was fatally shot on December 27th near Hagersville, responding to a vehicle in a ditch. 2 people have been charged with first-degree murder in that case. And the other ones were all over Canada. And yeah, it's unprecedented to have this many police deaths in the line of duty in this short a period of time. So that's really raising the alarm and showing just how dangerous the job of policing has become. And then it also touches on these other issues they've raised. The issue of bail reform is a big one because some of these individuals charged in the death of these police officers were on bail at the time and under weapons bans. That was the case with one of the suspects in the southwestern Ontario case.
Mm-hmm.
He had been released on bail, facing charges, possession of a firearm, assaulting police, and he was initially held in custody, and then a second bail review was done, and he was granted bail. And he wasn't allowed to have weapons. It was one of his conditions. So when you have cases like that, that prompts the question, is there a problem with the bail system? And a lot of police unions and even politicians say that we need to review the bail system and there needs to be some sort of bail reform to make it harder for individuals charged with repeat violent offenses or serious gun crimes have a higher threshold to be granted bail.
Okay, I was going to say what exactly have they asked for, but just a tougher way to get granted bail, I guess, is what
Often
they
they ask for what's called a reverse onus, and that's where the defendant has to make their case as to why they should be released on bail and why they don't pose a public safety risk. Whereas the opposite, it's the Crown's job to prove that. So it's a little harder to make the case. But when it's reverse onus, it's harder to get granted bail.
Okay. And so here in London, I wanted to touch on, because it's not just the deaths, of course. In London, we had 2 officers who were injured in a shooting on Kipps Lane just recently, like in the last month.
Yeah,
So that's kind of to us here in this area highlighting the reasons for asking for this, right?
exactly. Yeah, it's a case that really highlights the problem and the complexity of the issue as well. There were 2 officers, they're members of the London Emergency Response Unit, and they were taking part in a standoff with a homicide suspect last month at a Kipps Lane high rise. And they were shot with a single shot from a shotgun, and they're both seriously injured. One of them spent more than a week in the hospital. It's the first time London police officers have been shot in the line of duty in almost 2 decades. So this is a really rare thing. And the police chief held a press conference after, and she released some more details about that case and said the individual charged wasn't licensed to have that long gun that she said was used in the shooting. So it goes back to unlicensed firearms posing a danger to police officers.
And so what are, because the letter is asking for maybe tougher, more crackdowns and tougher restrictions on owning a gun as well, right? What do they say about that?
They don't go too deep into what they're asking for. That will come at the discussions, I think, where they just
Okay.
outline the concerns, and gun violence was one of them. gang and drug activity, which is tied to firearms,
Mm-hmm.
is a major issue. And so they said they want to discuss that more. And it's a wide-ranging issue. So I don't know exactly what their points will be, what they want to see done in that area, but it's one of the topics they want to discuss with the premiers.
The Association of the Chiefs of Police president is actually police chief of Winnipeg, Danny Smith, and he said in your story, quote, degradation of discourse around policing and police funding. What does he mean by that? Is there a degradation of discourse around just police in general and how much we pay them and the costs of policing in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really divisive issue, policing. There's the whole defund police movement saying put less money into police and more money into mental health supports and other outreach. Meanwhile, police keep asking for larger budgets so they can hire more officers because they're dealing with understaffing issues. They're struggling to get to call, longer wait times. So people want a faster police response, but sometimes they don't want to increase the policing budget. So police say they need to expand so they can provide these services and continue to offer a level of policing that's consistent. But there's some people who say that the money would be better spent elsewhere. And so that's really the big debate right now. In London, there's a request to hire dozens of more police officers because call times have been increasing here. There's been cases where London police have struggled to have the minimum number of officers as required in a collective agreement on the job. Up to 10% of police officers in the city are off the job for a range of reasons, from mental health issues and various leaves. So staffing is definitely an issue. And this isn't just a London issue. We're seeing this all across the country. Mm-hmm. But some people say these are issues we can't police our way out of. They're systematic. So it's really complicated, and it doesn't look like there's any easy solution.
So why are they asking all of the premiers in Canada? I mean, why are they asking the premiers specifically?
I think because the issues we experience here are similar to the issues police in Toronto experience, Vancouver, towns across the country that are policed by the OPP or the RCMP. It's this consistent problem in every community with crime rates, drug addiction, mental health issues, mm-hmm. and police are the people who get called to deal with these issues, and so they're the ones dealing with it. And so it's a policing problem, and that's why they want to speak with these premiers to address it and get the ball rolling on finding some sort of solutions.
We know that here in London, every budget time at City Council, the police budget is presented. It is highly scrutinized every year. They're always asking for an increase, for more officers. We need a lot more money for exactly the types of things that you mentioned. So why now? Why are they asking for all of this now? Why are they asking for this meeting now? Why is it urgent now? Because they've said this is an urgent request.
Yeah, I think the urgency is just based on the number of police officers who've been killed recently, the growing calls for bail reform. The Federal Conservative Party has tabled, I think, 2 bail reform bills that haven't made it through the House of Commons. So it's a political issue now. It's really timely. Everyone's talking about it. Police unions are pushing hard for it. Every time there's one of these incidents, you go on social media and you just see all the reaction. So it's a really heated discussion too, right? And that was kind of highlighted in the letter. Some of the language being used, there is hostility towards police at a level I haven't seen before in my over a decade reporting on policing. So there's so many moving parts to this issue. I think they're just trying to call attention to it and get the conversation started in a more constructive manner rather than people arguing over social media about the issues, trying to take some concrete steps and address it at a political level, because that's where the changes will ultimately be made.
Yeah, speaking of the political level, I think in your story, it might have been Chief Smythe, but correct me, or Smith if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. It said that we're seeing a lot of a discourse here that's very similar to what was already happening in the States, and it's kind of moved northward. Is that what he's talking about? Is that what you've seen here too in your reporting?
Yeah, he's referring to the deaths of the officers. That's something that we see more common in the United States. Obviously, they have a significantly larger population. and you think of Canada as a safer place, there's less access to firearms. But I mean, now you're seeing 9 officers killed in a short time period. So it's really showing that this isn't just an American problem. This is a problem here: violence against police, guns and drugs in communities, mental health issues. These problems are problems in Canada, and we have to acknowledge them.
Can you put the deaths into perspective for us? Do we know how many deaths have occurred for police officers in previous years? 9 is a lot in just 6 months.
Yeah, I don't have that statistic. It's something that's not tracked. The media would track it loosely,
Sure.
but it's an unprecedented number, that's for sure. Just like I said, the shooting of the 2 London police officers was the first in 2 decades. So that just shows how rare it is for a police officer to be shot on the job. And the OPP officer who was fatally shot last year, it was the first time in over a decade a OPP officer has been killed in southwestern Ontario. So these are rare occurrences, and so they really are significant when they do happen.
Okay, well, what are some of the next steps? The letter was just made public on Tuesday of this week. Has there been a response yet?
There hasn't been a response yet. I expect that the premiers will respond, and I'm sure they'll take this meeting. There's been other letters sent out from various police forces and police unions. Recently, the London Police Service Board and the now retired chief, Steve Williams, sent a letter to Justin Trudeau urging him to change the criminal code to implement some form of bail reform. And that was responded to. Trudeau's office said that they are doing everything they can. They're looking into and they hear their concerns. So this is just one of many letters that are going out to politicians at all levels to take some action. So the letters are happening now. The meetings will be set up and we'll see what comes of that.
Okay, well, we'll definitely watch your reporting on that. I'm sure you'll have it for us at lfpress.com. Thank you so much, Dale.
Thank you.